let's just say you clicked on this video and you're thinking, Julia, I am a recent grad. I just got done doing 4 years of studying and nothing but studying. Why on earth should I care about self-studying? Why should I care about independent learning? Oh, we're gonna answer that in today's video. But first, maybe we need to explain what self-learning even is. Now, when you're in school, you usually learn with a professor. You have a structure, you pay for a class, and that is what you are doing. It is part of your bigger learning journey, let's say. But there's also something called self-studying, which you may have already done without realizing it in the form of signing up for a class for something that you really wanted to learn, like a ceramics class, or there's a YouTube rabbit hole of a topic that you just love to watch videos about. Those, like many other things, are forms of self-studying. Let me just say, there are so many benefits to self-learning. The first of which is boosting your confidence. This one goes without saying. Being able to carry yourself as an interesting human being in conversations, being able to connect with people on something that you yourself are a subject expert on is a confidence boost in and of itself. Making better decisions. I can't even tell you how many times I've learned or studied something on my own that has helped me make a better decision in my life. I work in media planning right now, but before coming to my job, I did not have per se a prior experience in exactly the subject matter I was doing. The more that I studied, the more YouTube videos I watched on the subject, the more books I read, because there are a lot of great media planning books, have genuinely helped me make such better decisions at work, and I've actually been able to bring new ideas to the table as a result that my coworkers otherwise might have not had access to if I hadn't brought those forward. Self-studying can help you have better conversations with people. You have more, in a sense, to talk about with people, and just all in all, if you think of the most interesting person in your friend group, at least in my case, they're always the people that are traveling all the time, trying new things, have a million hobbies it seems like, but still have the balance to do all of those things in their life. You can also be more creative in your work, your personal life, your hobbies, and you can take the things that you learn into basically any facet of your life. Like, that knowledge is yours now. You own it. It is in your little noggin, and you can use it wherever you want to. Our brains are literally programmed for constant learning. Even when you go out to the grocery store or you go to a new place, do you not fall into this habit sometimes where you just observe the people around you? I know some of it is a personality thing, but I think all of us have experienced at some point in our life, like going out in public and seeing someone who's dressed super, super cool. We are constantly learning and observing and taking interesting things in from our surroundings. So self-learning is just a form of that is more controlled and therefore more intentional. Our ancestors stayed safe during challenging times by being able to observe and persevere and learn from repeated habits. Like, they were not doing the same thing each and every single day as much as history makes it seem that way. They were learning, they were growing, they were using all of that quiet time that they had to develop really interesting thoughts. So if you need a really big philosophical reason to self-study, those are some of them. Today, we're going to focus on 5 easy things that will get you started with self-studying, address a few mistakes that are commonly made in this process. I'm definitely going to share some of mine because, I've had a few flops, let's be honest. But before we get into those things, I just want to remind you to leave a like on this video if you end up enjoying it, you find it useful. It really helps me know what to post about on this channel, so let us proceed. Step number 1 is focusing your lens. Here's the honest truth. You're never gonna know everything. This is why your independent learning journey needs to come from a place that is driven by you. You're gonna need to be patient with yourself. You're gonna need to make some space for focus. But the good news is we're gonna talk about how to do all of those things in this video, so don't worry. Before we get too into this video, I want you to get a pen and paper, and we're just gonna start off by writing a list of everything that we wanna learn. Now, if you're having a bit of a brain fart and you can't remember all the things, that's totally okay. We just need a couple to get this list started. Sorry, I got distracted by the Amazon truck outside. For example, 3 of the things I have on my list are how to become more organized, AI prompting, and baking, which are all very different things, I know. But now that we have this list, we are gonna go through and figure out how to prioritize these things. So personally, out of that list, number 3 is baking. For me, it's something that's fun, but I'm not planning to become a professional chef. I definitely don't go to that many events. I'm pretty introverted, but it's more of a hobby. Number 2 is organization. It is something that I use so much in my adult life that it simply is a good thing to have in my toolkit. But number 1 is AI prompting. Now, the reason I put this as my number 1 right now is because it's such a big trend. As I mentioned, I'm a media planner, which puts me in the marketing/advertising industry. AI prompting is so huge right now. Now, that might not be the case in a couple of months. We'll watch the trends and see what happens. But for now, that's going to be my number one focus. When I am learning, when I'm spending my time on things, that is where I'm going to put the most of my energy. By knowing what's important, you can really focus on the key things. Oh, my mom is calling me. Okay. By knowing what's important, you can get through times of overwhelm, times of stress so much easier. This is also going to help you be a lot more aware of where your time actually goes. And you can use this kind of as a turn signal or an indicator light of where you want to go next. Maybe there's something that you didn't think you were going to study a lot about, but you just keep being drawn into the topic. That can be a learning in and of itself about what you're interested in. So lean into that and see where the road takes you. The second thing you're going to want to do is consume multiple types of content. Let's say you want to learn about archery, for example. You watched The Hunger Games and you thought, oh my goodness, Katniss Everdeen just blows my mind, because that was me at age 12. Yep, I still have that color glazed nail collection somewhere. Regardless, if you want to learn about archery, maybe you watch a coach on YouTube give a basic lesson, then you gravitate towards an article or a blog where you're reading about the history of archery, or you can even sit down and listen to an interview on Spotify or something from an Olympian who practiced in archery and see if they have any tips, see if they have any pointers on how to become a better archer. By consuming multiple forms of content, you get a really holistic view and you tap into different mediums with whatever area you're trying to learn in. Now, obviously, the other half of this is actually putting that knowledge into practice, but for now, I want you to think about just what are some ways that I can consume content about this. I feel like TikTok, weirdly enough, is a really great place to do this nowadays because the videos are so short, you can get really focused on specific topics, and the search engine is pretty good from what I've noticed. Consuming multiple types of content also helps you develop an opinion on what you're learning, which is objectively a great thing to do whenever you're adding something into your skill set. The third thing that you absolutely have to do, this is probably the most non-negotiable of the tips in this video, is you need to create mental space. It is so easy to get sucked into the vacuum of learning new things constantly. I want you to be aware of that because I personally struggle with scheduling so much in my personal life. So what I've started doing is setting one evening a week that is my learning evening. I don't make a specific goal for what I'm trying to learn. I don't put any weird restrictions or limitations. I just pick what I want to focus on, whether it's a book I want to read, whether it's a YouTube video that I've had in my watch later. Giving yourself the proper space and the proper medium to learn is half the battle. If you're studying something that's creative, like writing, painting, you are going to value this space so much, I promise you, because just absorbing content can be so tiresome, but having a space that you can use whatever you want with that time is going to help you tremendously. But you have to accept the reality that sometimes you're just gonna hit a dead end. To be honest, that notion of, oh, you're just gonna be motivated and you're gonna get into a flow state simply by being interested in something isn't really that applicable, especially if you're someone that chronically struggles with anxiety. Maybe you find yourself falling into lower moods a lot of the time. Your inspiration's not gonna feel the same from day to day as it's going to be for somebody who does not deal with those unique challenges. So what I want you to do is ask yourself these questions. Did you sleep enough? Are you moving your body enough? Are you creating enough quiet time in your life to process the thoughts in your head? Are there things on your mind that you need to address before you can be in a learning space? Have you been giving yourself enough time to process what you've already learned? If you're constantly asking yourself those questions, having that real checkpoint, you're going to get sucked into learning. Like, it is going to become practically addictive to the point where you might even need to step back and realize, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much time on self-learning. I need that time back to work on other things. But at the same time, there's so many signals that you get from what you study, and that's the really big thing. That's why I wish we talked about self-studying more, because so many of us do it informally. But if you have a good system and you have a good methodology and you have a good mindset towards learning, you can truly do anything with it. This brings me to tip number 4, which is capturing your good ideas effectively. Now, if you're on kind of the productivity / self-improvement side of YouTube, you may have heard of something called the second brain. A lot of people build this in a tool called Notion. I'm sure many of you have heard of it by this point. But it is insanely good for managing information. I personally have something called my inbox page in Notion, and this is something that lets me quickly capture anything I engage with online. If I come across a good article in a newsletter that I'm subscribed to, if I find a TikTok that is insanely helpful, because I never come back to my save folders, and so putting that into an inbox that was already right next to my daily planner, like I cannot miss it, that has been the catalyst for going back and actually processing so many things that I've wanted to learn. The fifth and final thing is practicing your information in the world. Now, I don't mean just practicing in your room, like if you have an easel in the corner of your room and you paint for 30 minutes a day, that's wonderful. But what about sharing that painting with a group of other artists? Having that feedback loop can be so helpful. If you introduce yourself as an amateur to anyone in almost any space, they're gonna wanna help you. For example, in high school, I had a startup and I was very much struggling. It was very, very difficult. And one of the things that I started doing is I went to Austin startup groups just to meet people. I didn't go in there with a business pitch. I didn't go in there trying to sell people things. I just wanted to be in an environment with people experiencing the same type of learning. Maybe we were at different phases, but being exposed to new ideas, feeling comfortable talking to people, asking questions, even though that business failed technically, it still ended up being one of the biggest things on my resume that helped me get my dream job. You can basically see what's going on in your city or over Zoom and just talk to people that have a similar learning interest as you. Practice teaching others what you yourself are learning. In college, I struggled tremendously with accounting, but I still led accounting study groups. Now that sounds really backwards. It's like, Julia, that's so dumb. But let me tell you, leading these study groups, even from my place of novice, ended up being the reason that I passed the class and got a better grade than I thought I could. First of all, it kept me motivated to be prepared for each session. If people are counting on me to teach, I gotta be prepared. Even if I don't feel like I know anything that's going on, I still have to prepare something. It gave me the comfort in being uncomfortable, and it helped me really feel open to feedback. When people brought ideas to the group, I actually was able to learn from them and not take a hit to my ego because of it. We do not have to be perfect beings. We do not have to be absolute legends at every single thing that we do, especially in college. A lot of people get caught up in the whole perfect student image. It's almost an aesthetic now, which we can get into that in another video. But ultimately, the goal of college is actually learning things, not just getting the good grades, unless obviously you're going to grad school or whatever, a little bit of a different story. But if you're just ending at undergrad, that's basically all you need. In conclusion, self-learning is one of the best traits that I think a person can develop. If there's something that you really, really want to know about, this is your sign to pursue it. I want you to chase after that thing. I want you to study it. Plus, learning is such a great way to spend your free time. Like, yeah, scrolling on social media is probably a little bit easier, but getting sucked into something that you are just so fired up and so passionate about is a million times better, and it helps you be a really well-developed and well-rounded individual. You will never regret the time that you spend studying something, and if anything, you'll regret the time that you spent not learning. So in the comment section, let me know what you're studying right now, and let's have a little conversation about it. I love to learn about other people's interests. If you want to be the first person to watch my next video, turn on your notifications, and I will see your beautiful faces in the next one. Bye, lovelies!